To the regular council meeting for November 4th. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This evening, we have all council members in attendance. We acknowledge that this land is the traditional territory of the Three Fires Confederacy of the First Nations, comprised of the Ojibwe, the Ottawa, and the Potawatomi peoples, and of the Huron-Wendat peoples. We value the significant historical and contemporary contributions of local and regional First Nations and of all the original peoples of Turtle Island who have been living and working on the land from time immemorial. If you are able, please stand for our national anthem.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command.
Car ton bras s'est porté l'épée, il s'est porté la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits.
God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
To Director Malin-Jucolo for a closed meeting report.
Mayor Bondi, through you, council met on November 4th at 5:15 p.m. to discuss, they moved into close to discuss a topic that was privileged to solicitor-client privilege, subject to section 239(2)(f) of the Municipal Act 2001. And that's the extent of my report.
Just for members of the audience watching, I just want to announce that next Monday is Remembrance Day, and we have processions starting at each Legion at 10:30, and the ceremonies will be held at Veterans Memorial Park in Narrow and at the Cenotaph right here in Essex Ward 1. And we hope to see you at, I guess you can't be at both, but we hope to see you at one. So thank you for that. Any declarations of conflicts of interest from members of council this evening? Seeing none, if you find yourself in conflict, please let us know. I need a mover and a seconder for the adoption of the regular council meeting agenda for November 4th. Moved by Councillor Mady, supported by Councillor Guerin. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Adoption of the meeting minutes for the regular council meeting for October 21st. Needing a mover and a seconder. Councillor Verbeek, supported by Councillor McGuire-Blaze. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? And that is carried. Under unfinished business, we have Development Services 2024-10, the Harrow High School request for proposal. We will go to Director Chadwick for a verbal update.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi, and good evening, Council. At the special meeting on October the 6th, members of Council were provided with an opportunity to receive information about the Harrow High School redevelopment project and RFP. The presentation from that special meeting is included in your agenda for quick reference. At that special meeting, Council supported the inclusion of an affordable housing target in the RFP of 20% in principle, and directed administration to return back today with additional information. So we offer you the following in your decision making. Firstly, Council asked to receive the statistics that we spoke about at the October 6th meeting on average low and moderate incomes and rent in Harrow, but that weren't included in the presentation itself. These stats are available for you and can be found, on page 2 and 3 of the report. And again, that's specific to Harrow. Secondly, Council asked what tools municipalities have to protect affordable housing units. Well, it looks like we've got quite a few tools in our shed. In summary, Council's municipalities can incorporate things such as demolition and conversion control policies through the official plan to help ensure the preservation or replacement or conversion of affordable housing units. The county's new OP does support these types of policies and is something that has been drafted in our new OP as well. Municipalities can also, through those OP policies, follow up and enact bylaws to prohibit and regulate the demolition of residential rental properties and or affordable housing units and the conversion of such properties. This is something we'd like to explore a little bit more as well, although not something that we have currently in our municipality. The town may also implement a CIP affordable housing program for grants or loans where an agreement between the municipality and the landowner would specify properties to be maintained and therefore, as affordable housing, and then enforcement of payback if the terms of the program are not met. Again, this is not a CIP that we currently have in place, but we can certainly explore. Municipalities can remain, as one option, one tool in our shed, municipalities can remain owner of the land or a portion of the land and enter into a project agreement with a developer as the owner to have full control and enforce those terms of the agreement if or when necessary. Municipalities may also require the developer as a part of an RFP to partner with a nonprofit housing agency where therefore the agency leases or purchases those units from the developer, and the agreement is therefore between the developer and the agency. That is something that we spoke about at our October 6th special meeting. And then lastly, where waivers of DCs or parkland fees have been administered, municipalities, as Director Drusevich explained at our last meeting, would be able to monitor affordable housing by requiring submission of an annual statement, registering an agreement on title, enforcing payback through registered instruments when necessary. So while these are some of the ways that municipalities can ensure and protect our affordable housing units, we will continue to review what other tools may be available in our shed. Thirdly, council asked about measures we can implement to ensure the site is developed in accordance with the preferred proposal. CAO Suite spoke to an example just recently with an RFP for recreational development. Council has measures that we can implement to ensure the site is developed in accordance with the preferred proposal through essentially an agreement of purchase and sale. So we can impose a certain time frame through an agreement of purchase and sale where essentially the agreement would be negotiated and entered into from an award date of the RFP or an award date of or entering into or agreement of a letter of intent. Municipalities may also impose a time frame that construction of the development must be completed from removal of conditions and closing of an agreement of purchase and sale. A municipality may also enter into an agreement of purchase and sale that would ensure several or various conditions are met prior to closing, such as entering into a site plan agreement, paying securities for the development, and then thereby ensuring those obligations are met. And then also, if required, entering into a site servicing agreement that sets out certain costs. So just like as we indicated above, while this is some measures, we will explore other legal options to recover should the property end up defaulting in any way. And then lastly, at the October 6th special meeting, council asked us to provide additional information on the municipal servicing upgrades. We can also pass the floor to Director Gerard to speak to those before we open up to the floor.
Through the chair. So as council is aware, the Harrow Lagoon pump station does require upgrades to accommodate the minimum density required for any residential development there, which includes a cost of about $290,000, which would have a benefit to the existing rate base, as it would both be there to handle the additional capacity as well as attenuate any wet weather flows. So this would have a benefit to the existing system, and therefore would have funding from both development charges and the wastewater rate reserves. In addition to this, there is also identified within the study the need to improve water servicing for the area. We can't determine exactly what that water servicing requirement is until we know what the proposal is. So we won't have that information until detailed design, but that would be a direct developer negotiation at that point. And if there was a requirement for the town to cost share because it had existing benefit to the existing rate base, then we would report to council at a future time.
Both Director Chadwick and Director Gerard. Looking for feedback from council and at the appropriate time, a motion that the Harrow High School request for proposal, future residential development, that the report be received and that council supports the inclusion of an affordable housing target of 20% in the Harrow High School redevelopment request for proposal. Somebody can make the motion or have a comment. Councillor Verbeek.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yep, when the time comes, I'm going to make the recommendation that we receive and support both recommendations. And I do just want to thank Director Chadwick and team that, like, you got everything covered. And when I was looking over this before the meeting, I was like, well, they answered all the questions and concerns that we as council brought forward. It seemed, and I appreciate that.
Councillor Verbeek, supported by Councillor McGuire Blaze. Any comments or questions to the motion? Councillor McGuire Blaze.
Thank you through the chair. The only comment that I had when reading this was, I don't think, in my opinion, that we should enter into an agreement where the town still owns the property. I don't really want to support that, and I'd like to see us move away from that idea, sell it completely, and just use all the other tools that you suggested in your box. But that's my 2 cents, is that one point didn't feel right. So I would appreciate it if we could do something else.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. To clarify, it is one tool that municipalities have to maintain that full control. However, the RFP will be posted for sale, and essentially the funding model for the project is so that these the funds from the sale would be utilized as well. So it's there for purchase.
I just have one question myself. What's our time frame? Please.
If this is through you, Mayor Bondi, if this is approved tonight, we'll get the RFP finalized. Excuse me. Then it'll go out probably 3 to 4 months. We'll determine the submission date, and from that, we want to have creativity, right? We're opening up for them to come back with proposals. Once we get those, we'll meet again with council to see what we have, and council can give us further direction. So this won't be a fast pace. We want to do it right, but I'm expecting 3 to 4 months because of the Christmas holidays for the tender to be open.
Once that hits, the time frame hits, I'd like to get some media out there, because I'm getting a lot of people asking me already about how to find out more. Many people even want, like, developers want a tour. So once we get all that out there, we can share it. Any further questions, comments to the motion? All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Capital Works and Asset Management 2024-16 driveway at 33 Irwin Avenue. We do have the report is back. The report is back the same, that the Capital Works and Asset Management report be received. Looking for comment direction from council. Councillor Guerin.
Yeah, through the mayor, are you looking for just to receive a report at this time and only receive?
Motion to receive the report right now, supported by Councillor McGuire Blaze. And all in favor of that? And Councillor Guerin.
Okay, yeah, through the mayor. So I met with Mr. Fraser a couple weeks back, and also met with a couple other residents down the road over the weekend, and administration did send out a report on a permit that was pulled back in 2019 for a curb cutout. So what I haven't even realized that it's clear that it's an exceptional circumstance at 33 Irwin compared to some of the other homes on that street. And we need to address it. My motion, I guess, would be that town administration meet with Mr. Fraser, discuss coming to a resolution to the matter as it pertains to what proper curb cutout should be based on the permit that was awarded back in 2019, and then report back to council at such time.
Deputy Mayor Shepley. Any further questions or comments to that motion? Deputy Mayor Shepley?
It would be pleasing to Joe if we added in that any work that is done would be done after the maintenance period. So whatever solution they come up with, we would work at that after the maintenance period, which would be in October.
I wonder if that would come back to us.
I believe whatever's, depending on what comes back to us, and who's responsible for costs associated with it would determine whether or not work can be done now or up the road, right? So I think we can wait till the report comes back. I don't think any work will be done until we approve it anyways, and we can make that noted.
McGuire Blaze?
I'm sorry, through the chair. I feel like we already did this. Like, are we not going around in circles? Did we not already have this meeting with the resident? Like, what is different tonight and what you're proposing, Councillor Guerin, than what we've done the last 2 times this has come to council?
To the mayor.
So I think this, when we looked at this circumstance, there's something different about this as opposed to all the other driveways that are on the road. And I think that there's some information that was already with administration that we can rely on, that can allow us to come to a conclusion with the resident that will allow us to satisfy all parties. But I think Councillor Guerin's motion is asking administration that to make some effort in finding a resolution on this property.
Thank you. I think with this one, we're directing administration.
So
Councilor
further,
McGuire Blaze?
further to my question is, why does it have to come back to council? Can we not put it in administration's hands to resolve the issue and be done with it?
Through the chair, you could go ahead and do that if you want to leave that with administration. Yes.
Is that okay with you, Councilor Guerin?
When I was at with the permit that I'm seeing, it doesn't indicate, first of all, when I measure out his driveway, it doesn't measure the 25 feet that he originally thought he was gonna get. So I'm measuring it based on the property line I see and his house, maybe about 19 feet. The cutout looks to be about 16. What I don't know is prior to reconstruction, what that cutout was. And I don't know by looking at the permit, what was permitted, because it doesn't say in the permit what was permitted. All we know is that there was a permit taken out and then he was refunded his money back. So the recommendation coming from the administration right now is he has to pay for the whole thing and they don't really want to change it. I'm saying I want him to go back to the table with them and try to find some common ground, if there is some common ground. I know what I'd like to do, but I don't think I'm ready to put a motion in right now for that.
Any final comments?
So I think my only final comment here is I think it makes sense what Councillor Guerin's saying. I think if administration can come to some sort of proposal, I think that's the best way to address it.
Favor of the motion? And that is carried unanimously. Planning 2024-32, 80 Maidstone Avenue. We will go to Director Chadwick.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. As you'll recall, a statutory public meeting was held not too long ago on October 21st to review the merits of and hear public comments on a proposed zoning bylaw amendment at 80 Maidstone Ave for various amendments to zoning regulations for this subdivision. To clarify, the land use is not changing and neither are the size of the lots nor the number of lots that council supported and ultimately the county approved as a part of the subdivision application. So again, semi-detached dwellings and townhomes are still being proposed on the same size lots. The developer is proposing amendments to the zoning regs to facilitate a larger building envelope for more living space. So the comments received at that public meeting are summarized in a table on pages 3 through 5 of the report. But with respect to the main points of concern, being the rear yard setback, the encroachment of decks into the required rear yard, and the height of the dwellings, as well as a privacy fence, we offer council the following additional information. Regarding the minimum rear yard setback, the developer has indicated that he is unable to provide a 25-foot setback due to the required width of Susie Court and Lucy Lane. Since those roads were required to be designed and constructed in accordance to municipal standards as opposed to privately owned driveways as a part of a rental complex, the buildable area of the dwellings thereby decreased. In order to accommodate the buildable dwelling and with a modest living space, the developer is therefore still requesting a 20-foot rear yard setback for all lots. Regarding the encroachment of decks into the required rear yard, since the construction of a deck would automatically encroach into the required rear yard, the maximum height is 4 feet as per our zoning bylaw, and it could only encroach up to 6.5 feet. This is in line with all other residential properties that propose a deck in the required yard under the new regulations that council passed at the time in 2021. Regarding the height of the dwellings, we did not stipulate that the building height would be limited to 1 story, and that's before you in the zoning bylaw amendment before you, because the definition of a story technically does not set a limit of height of that story. However, the developer has agreed to reducing the originally requested 10-meter height to 8 meters. This was at the time of our meeting with the developer about 2 weeks ago or so. For the lots abutting Bell Avenue homes, as well as the lots abutting Mr. Mills' home. Lastly, to further mitigate impacts to property owners along Bell Ave, the developer has agreed to install a 6-foot privacy fence along the rear property lines of those lots. Of the Bell Avenue properties. As identified in the report, an amendment to the development agreement would be required to facilitate this requirement. So, Bylaw 2364, since it was read a first and second time and provisionally adopted on October 21st, we attached a red line version with these amendments before you tonight, as well as a clean version for your decision making. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Chadwick, we do have a registered delegate tonight, Andrea Grimes. If you want to go back to the podium, you do have 5 minutes to address council. At the last meeting, we did have somebody speak on your behalf as well. Welcome.
And I just have a couple questions. I just received this document in my driveway about 20 minutes ago. So I just have a couple questions that Lori Chadwick just mentioned. Something about 8 meters. In the diagram that I received, we have a proposal of 6-meter ranch style document. I don't know if you received this. Okay. And it was agreed upon with Bell Avenue residents that collaborated together that 6 meters would be fine in height along with the 20 feet rear. As long as, once again, the decks, as stated, let me go here. I'm sorry. I just had to write these down real quick. A deck to the maximum, I know Lori mentioned 4 feet. Could we bring it to a maximum of 3 feet? Is that possible? Anyone? Or do I just go on?
We'll collaborate your question.
Collaborate. Thank
Okay.
you. I appreciate that. Or even better, just the patio on ground level, if that's possible. 2, the fence on the property. I know Walter mentioned a 6-foot fence on Bell. Is it possible if we could go 7 feet high? It's just a question. Just wondering if that's possible. 2A, I wrote down the water basins and catch basins. Is that a regular building code, Walter? This is directed to you for building homes. Is that just normal? Because you just mentioned that.
You're not able to ask questions.
Oh, I
Um,
didn't know.
You're
I
not,
don't
no,
know.
you're able to ask questions, but you're not able to ask them directly.
Oh, there he is.
So
Okay.
keep listening.
All
and
right.
We'll get an opportunity. We're all listening. We're making notes. So go through your whole
Okay.
speech and then we'll answer.
I
them.
don't know how this goes, but thank you. And then 3, can this possibly, I know we were here in October and there was an agreement. We're here again November 4th. I don't know if this is agreed upon with council. Can this be signed tonight so we don't have, this has been an 8-year process. It's been going on for some time. Let's just get it done. I moved here about 20 years ago reluctantly. I didn't want to move here. However, I've come to love the town of Essex. The reason why I bring these items up is because I want to keep the beauty and charm the town of Essex has for now and for future generations to come. It's just, we have to speak up for our town, our neighborhoods, and, take care of them. And that's all I have to say. Okay. Thank you.
To Director Chadwick and then Mr. Branco will ask you to go up. Director Drusevich, can you get the mic there, please? Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I think I've got all the questions. So in terms of the rendering that was circulated today to staff, council, and residents, if I can put, I guess, into your perspective, our deadlines to submit reports and meet with developers prior to council receiving information on their agenda is 10 days prior or earlier to a council meeting. And so the zoning bylaw before council tonight was not written with 6 meters, but that's not to say that council couldn't make that revision tonight. So council could theoretically, if that is your direction, to make that red line to the red line, to stipulate the maximum height of those homes along Bell Ave to 6 meters. In terms of the height of the maximum height of the deck or a deck for those properties, again, that's not something that we stipulated because that wasn't discussed at the time, or rather was not, we're proposing that council's amendments in the zoning bylaw are strong in that it addresses these issues at the maximum of 4 feet, but certainly if that's council's direction, council can make those revisions tonight as well. We would also propose some language. We could help with that. We do have our manager of planning services, Rita Jaboury, here tonight. In terms of the fence height, so the fence bylaw is not a matter under the Planning Act. The fence bylaw is a municipal bylaw. And just recently, council has established a new appeals committee. So the process for seeking an exemption to a fence in the municipality would go towards and in front of the appeals committee for decision making. The maximum height that my building team can issue a permit for is 6 feet over the counter. And then lastly, the question pertaining to could council approve something tonight? In theory, yes. Council could approve something tonight through amendments, or council could direct us to come back with another revision if necessary. Thank you.
Please go back to the podium. And I believe we have a question on the deck height.
Yeah, so the deck height would be, I believe it's 3 foot 4 inches in height, and it's showing more of a landing because, as Ms. Chadwick had explained, the setback current is only a 6 foot encroachment that's permitted.
So, could you please explain scenario 1 and scenario 2 that are on the screen for members here tonight, council, and members watching? Please?
Yes, so I did meet with the planning department a few weeks ago, and we went through.
Apologize, Mr. Branco. Okay, continue.
Yeah, so I did meet, as Ms. Chadwick had stated, a few weeks ago with the planning department and went through the reduction from the 10 meters to the 8 meters. However, after hearings, meeting with some of the residents on Bell and hearing their concerns, they still weren't quite satisfied with that height. I got our design team to start designing an exact elevation and came up that with a 6 meter in height we could work with that height, and I believe the residents of Bell now are satisfied with that. So we've come up to 6 meter, knowing that obviously the original ask was the 10 meters. However, we since then have reconsidered, and I believe, as Ms. Andrea had mentioned, she's satisfied with that. So I think we've jointly come to a conclusion, a win-win for both the residents and ourselves.
Council members, do you have questions to our administration, the first delegate, or Mr. Branco? Deputy Mayor Shepley.
First and foremost, I'm glad to see that you took some of our concerns and went back and worked with some of the residents. I know it wasn't to everybody's complete liking, but I'm glad to see that you heard what they were looking for and what we wanted to see. So for me, I'm really pleased with that. I don't know that the 1 foot height addition is going to make on the fence would make a big difference to the neighbors or not. I don't know, since you're saying we can't do anything about that at this time. I'm wondering though, just not that it would, I think it would maybe put the residents at ease if we wrote into the bylaw the 6 meter height that's there and pass that tonight. Just make that one change. And I think that would be, since that's what you're proposing, I think that would be fantastically put that in there so it's in lockdown and we're good to go. So once that's done, I'm satisfied. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. When the time permits, I'd like to put the motion forward that we pass this for the third time with the change of 8 meters to 6 meters. And I do want to address to the resident that you asked about the height of the porch. Currently, the bylaw is 4 feet, but looking at the drawing, the back porch is coming from grade 3.6 feet. So it's going to be under 4 feet anyways. You're probably looking at a back porch of 3.5, probably even shorter than that when you come off the step. So your back porch isn't going to be at the 4 foot mark anyways. You're probably looking just over 3 feet. So I think you're going to get what you're asking for without us having to put that stipulation in there, just based on the drawing that they're providing. So I think that's okay. So when the time comes, I'd like to pass that motion with that one change from 8 to 6.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. I just had the clarification on the porch. It could be the 3 feet 6 inches high and 4 feet from the building out for an encroachment, or?
To Councillor Mady. So the current, and we'll say new 2021 zoning bylaw regulations stipulate that a maximum of 4 feet in height, but a deck can encroach into the required yard by a maximum of 6.5 feet.
Okay, I'll go to Councillor Allard, then Councillor McGuire-Blaze for the motion.
I just want to clarify on the 6 feet height. Whereabouts, is it the eaves trough, the peak, or somewhere in between?
Yeah, so the 6 meters in height would be this center line, half of the roof line, and is how it's measured.
McGuire-Blaze.
Have to read it all out.
Moved by Councillor McGuire-Blaze that the planning report be received, that bylaw 2392 be read a third time and finally passed on November 4th with a maximum height of 6 meters. And we're allowing the 20-foot rear yard. And then 20 rear yard setback, the maximum build height 19.9, and the fence will be in the bylaw as well. No, Director Chadwick?
Administration would have to return with a report amending the development agreement for the fence. You can resolve, however, it would not be a part of the zoning bylaw amendment before you tonight.
Thank you. And that the subdivision development agreement between 1552843 Ontario Limited and the Corporation of the Town of Essex for the lands located at 80 Maidstone be amended to include a provision requiring the owner of the development to construct a privacy fence to the satisfaction of the Town of Essex along the property lots 1 to 13 and the residential lots along Bell Avenue. Needing a mover and a seconder, moved by Councillor McGuire Blaze, supported by Deputy Mayor Shepley. Any questions on that motion? All in favor? That's carried unanimously. And I need a motion that the delegation by Andrea Grimes regarding 80 Maidstone West be received. Councillor Mady, Councillor Hammond, any questions? All in favor? Thank you. And thank you all for coming and working together to get a deal. Community Services 2024-48, revised lease agreement between Chittell Sports Academy at the Essex Center Sports Complex. Needing a mover and a seconder that the Community Services report be received and that the Town of Essex enter into an agreement to extend bylaw 1722. Being a bylaw, sorry, gentlemen, thank you. Conversations outside. Being a bylaw to lease 343 square feet or 343 square feet at the Essex Center Sports Complex with Pat Chittell until December 31st, 2024. And that bylaw to enter into 2340 being a lease for a workout space at the Essex Center Sports Complex with Pat Chittell within the Libro rink at the Essex Center Sports Complex. Needing a mover and a seconder. And that, am I doing them all? That, okay, hang on. There's a whole bunch going on here. That Pat Chittell, the owner, okay. All right, Mr. Chittell, why don't you delegate first? Thanks.
Through you, councilors, administration, fellow attendees, my name is Pat Chittell of Chittell Sports Academy. I'm excited to be here today to share with you that we've successfully worked with administration as well as the Essex 73s to complete the mutual shared space agreement request from council from the previous meeting in regards to the lease expansion renewal at the Essex Center Sports Complex. In addition to the fulfillment of what I hope is the final puzzle piece, I wanted to share or paint a picture of what our proposal and vision for the future is. In the background, it's a little bit hard to see, but that's the hallway space within the Essex Center Sports Complex, and you can see some of the concepts that we have for dryland training focused on youth development, health, fitness for teams, for individuals, sports-specific training. Of course, hockey is a big piece of that passion, but new technology and lots of what we believe is great things. In completion of the shared space agreement, we're excited, our current members are excited, and our waitlisted clients in anticipation for your approval. We're all excited to get things kicked off, and I hope that you'll see the innovation, the benefits, and the possibilities behind our passion. So that concludes my delegation and open to questions. And
Mayor Shepley.
Just a quick question on in your diagram with your pictures there. I noticed you had like indoor outdoor carpet. It looked like almost on the floor. Is that going to be put down permanently in the hallway, or is that just something just for the renderings?
through your worship, Councillor Shepley, no, it's not permanent. It's laid down. It's special indoor like training turf that can be removed at a later time.
Thank you.
Oh,
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. And to the delegate, thank you for sticking with it and working with our administration to renew this lease. For a little while there, I was getting a little nervous that we would lose this wonderful service. And I just had a second granddaughter on Friday night through the first shift program, get to work with you. And I got nothing but positive feedback from my son-in-law and the kids that were able to participate in this training. So I was a little nervous that the way this had dragged out. So I want to thank administration and Mr. Chittle for persevering through this and hammering out the details so that we don't lose this service. And at the time, I'll make the motion that we receive and support.
Director Morissette?
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. Thank you, Mayor Bondi. So on August 12th, 2024, through resolution R-2408-327, council directed administration to continue working with all parties to further communicate and agree on the terms of the lease. Since that time, administration worked with Chittle Sports Academy and the Essex 73s to discuss some important components of the lease agreement. So all of the things that were requested of the Essex 73s were agreed upon in some way. So there was mutual agreement between Chittle Sports Academy and the 73s to make that function. So some of the notable changes was to ensure that all parties were in agreement that the construction of the wall was to be at the cost of Chittle Sports Academy. Chittle Sports Academy will stay in the confines of the lease space. The Essex 73s will have a key to access the area for practices and game times. Chittle Sports Academy will leave a 5-foot corridor through the entire space for access for the 73s as a throughway for their game days. Chittle Sports Academy cannot conduct business during the following times: 1.5 hours prior to Essex 73's game times. So business may continue after the 73's game begins. However, throughway traffic after their game times and through their game times have to be able to get through, and it must be safe throughout those times. And then 1 hour prior to practice times, they'll have access to that area. CSA also acknowledged that the 73's practices and game times may vary from time to time, and there's not always long-term notice of when those games will be. A good example of this is during playoff time, where games can be scheduled very short-term as practices. So it is known that those times won't be usable in advance of practices or games, and it could be on short notice. And CSA will have to have a fully operational camera within the confines to alleviate any concerns of potential damage. So all of those terms were agreed upon. So one other point just to point out is that the 73s, while they aren't necessarily in favor of any business taking place in the hallway area, they did say that with these terms that they'd be able to work with this agreement.
Councilor Verbeek, did you want to, actually, we don't have a motion on the table yet, right? First, let's accept the delegation from Pat Chittle, owner of Chittle Sports Academy. I need a mover and a seconder to receive the delegation. Moved by Councilor Allard, supported by Deputy Mayor Shepley. All in favor? Okay, and now I'll go to Councilor Verbeek. You wish to move the community services report that is received and that the town of Essex enter into an agreement and extend bylaw 1722, being a bylaw to lease the space and everything else I said. Moved by Councilor Verbeek, supported by Deputy Mayor Shepley. Questions to the motion, Council? Councilor Hammond.
I guess this would be to Jake. So is this mean that they'll be getting ice time at a reduced rate from a reduced rate for their ice time?
Through your Mayor Bondi, that condition still did go into this lease agreement. Council did not direct administration to make a change on that at the last meeting, and that was a condition in the previous lease agreements. So it did carry forward on this agreement that's been proposed as well.
Just make another comment regarding that, in an email that we received today with another group that's, proposing the same thing. I'd just like to make a comment that, I'm not really in agreement with giving extra discounts to, for-profit organizations if they were nonprofit and, helping, kids that wouldn't normally be able to play hockey due to the costs. I would be in more support of a discount. I'm also just like to make a reference, I'm a little disappointed with the 73s. A lot of these kids are aspiring, want to be 73 some days. I think it's would have been a great opportunity for them to, mingle with their, mentors, but, that's another topic, but, those are my comments regarding this.
And I have Counselor Garin and then Deputy Mayor Shepley.
Thanks for the mayor. Okay, yeah, so I am happy that Pat and 73s were able to get together with administration and work out some of the concerns that we as council had with respect to the space and accommodating one another. I kind of on the same page as Councillor Ham when it comes to the ice rate part of the agreement, especially in light of the fact that we have found out there are other groups or another group for sure that seeking similar ice time and ice rate reductions. So I guess a couple of questions council's got to be asking ourselves is, I mean, we went from, do we want a business down there of any kind to where we are today? But I guess for administration, maybe just give us a little broad strokes on what is prime time hours? What are the actual prime time hours? What are the non-prime time hours? What are the rates that go along with each of them? And then maybe a follow-up to that would be like on the non-prime ice time hours, do we have a high percentage of availability and that's why we give the discount on top of the discount? Or is it or do we have no capacity and one group is getting it because they asked for it and other groups aren't getting it because they just didn't ask for it?
Mayor Ronnie, there was a lot of questions there, so forgive me if I forget something. You might have to remind me. So prime time hours are on weekdays between 4:30 p.m. and 11 p.m. On weekends from 7 a.m. until 11 p.m. So anything that would be considered non-prime would be on weekends before 7 a.m. and after 11 p.m. So very little ice time is considered non-prime on weekends. And on weekdays, it would be before 7 a.m. and after 11 p.m. So similar. The discounted rate was intended for daytime ice time on weekdays. So it's like a weekday specialty rate, which is half off of the non-prime rate, which would go from 7 a.m. till 4:30 p.m. So typically, the user groups that we would see using that space would be the hockey academies, high school groups, gym classes, and things like that. So the capacity, we really don't have many hours, if any at all, in our prime time area. They're all taken up. And we don't really see our non-prime rate being used very often because most groups aren't paying or aren't using the ice after 11 p.m. So I think there might be one group that goes until 11:30 on maybe a Friday night. And I think that the Harrow Arena would go until midnight on one. But other than that, we have very, very little utilization of our non-prime rates. And in terms of why Chittle Sports would have had that, and it's not a rate that's offered to other groups, it was something that was negotiated in his previous lease agreements. And it's been something that's been rolled over and carried forward in those lease agreements. We haven't had another group come up and ask for any sort of item like this. But if it was something that was brought up, it would be something that would go through the finance committee and be funded through the community partnership grant.
To the mayor. Yeah, I did pound a lot of questions. I apologize for that. What was the prime time rate and what is the non-prime time rate?
I would need a couple minutes to look those rates up, but they were passed by council through the fee schedule earlier in 2024. But I will try and look those up right now.
Safe to say somewhere along the lines of 200 and 100?
So it's different depending on the rink because the Essex Center Sports Complex has a capital surcharge. So there is an added $10 per hour for our primetime rates, and our non-prime rates or preferred rate would be the $9 capital surcharge per hour and $5 per hour for the daytime rates. But it would probably be around that 200, maybe a couple dollars over per hour for our primetime rate. The non-prime rate and preferred, so that's one fee that wasn't talked about before. The preferred rate is for our minor hockey organizations, which is the same as the non-prime rate. So that would be probably $15 to $20 less per hour for that rate. And then the daytime rate is 50% off of the non-prime rate.
I guess I'm just trying to understand is we open the arena at a certain time on a weekday or weekend, and this is when the non-prime hours start up until say 7 a.m. I'm trying to understand how much or how little even revenues the town is losing by allowing, say, Mr. Chittle to have a discount versus the other groups. If we're talking about there's only a total of 10 non-prime ice towers in a week, and Mr. Chittle has 2 of them, then it's kind of a moot point, possibly. But if we're talking that there's all kinds of hours and he makes up a small percentage of them hours that are being used, then I think it's a point to be made. And that's just aside from whether or not we feel we want a business in a hallway or not in the arena. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it. I mean, I do like the point that Councillor Hammond made about for-profit groups versus nonprofit groups. So in Chittle's case, it is a for-profit organization who's getting a further discount on ice than what we already permit. I myself would, I'm halfway on the hall rental as it is, but I believe the business to be probably more of a winter, fall, couple hours a day type of thing versus a full-time business. So I could get on board with the hallway part of it. I still think we need a town policy with respect to rentals on properties and facilities that we own so that we can come up, so we're not in this situation. We know when we should be going out for requests for proposals and when we shouldn't. And what the rate's going to be for our own users, such as festival committees, our nonprofit organizations within our town, and our for-profits. With regards to the ice time, I would prefer to approve the presentation with the ice time being just at whatever the regular non-prime ice rate is. That's what I want to say on it.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was just wanted to commend both groups for working together. I was glad to see that you guys were able to come up with something that maybe everybody wasn't happy, but we got a workable agreement between the two groups and to administration, Director Morissette, sorry, just got elected, for working this out. I appreciate all the efforts put into it, and I'll see where the rest of council goes with it.
Has not spoken once. I'm going to call the question. Oh, sorry, Councilor Verbeek.
Through the mayor, I did just want to, I'm hoping it'll pass because I'd like to see this cleared up, and I would like to put it on the floor as it reads, as the Director Morissette and his team and Mr. Chittle have hashed it out. I did want to comment for Mr. Hammond about the discount that the Sports Academy receives by renting the ice on off-peak hours. We had staff tell us a couple of times when this has been before us that it's likely time that the ice wouldn't be rented, and so it'd be a portion of nothing. But also, They are not a nonprofit, but I can tell you that because they've been able to get the discount on off-peak ice time, Mr. Chittle's been able to finesse this program and his business to cater to family. I have grandchildren that have only been able to enter his program because he's been able to keep the cost effective and down low to offer this service to kids and young people in the community that would not be able to otherwise afford this kind of skills training. So I would fear that he may not be able to offer this kind of service at the price that he does if we were to take that out of the lease that's already in the lease to give him a discount on ice time that would otherwise probably not be rented. So I would let it sit as it is.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Yeah, I'd have to agree with that if we're going to charge a decreased rate for a business, I think we should offer that for all of our residents. That, you know, if we're looking at our non-prime rate being 50%, really it should be 30%. Then we should offer that 30% to all of our residents, not just for businesses. That'd be my take.
Had the opportunity to speak, has spoken. Councillor Guerin, do you have something new? This file has been back to us 3 times. I feel like my 2 cents are we put Mr. Chittle through the ringer multiple times. Director Drusevich.
Through the chair, I just want to make a point on waivers of fees being either for a profit or for a nonprofit. So what's important to consider is this is a lease agreement, and so financial consideration is being given by the tenant, which means in his price that he's paying the town, that discount has been incorporated, right? So that's a big difference because when we have other residents, what we're saying is there's no financial consideration in the form of a contract. So in essence, what I'm saying is he's paying for the discount through his lease amount. Okay.
Station up. Everybody that has spoken has spoke, and we have a vote now to take. All in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Development Services, Colchester Heights Plan of Subdivision. Development Services report titled Colchester Heights be received. Oh, sorry. Whoops. Oh, yeah, I was testing you. Oh, boy. Sorry. Okay. Whoa. Community Services 2024-50 results from the request for a tender town hall expansion and consolidation. I guess some folks up here really want that one. Looking for a mover and a seconder that the report be received and that council award the contract to Gulf Developments for the request for tender posted at the town hall expansion and consolidation in the amount of $4,065,168.52. Director Morissette to speak here.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. The town hall construction portion of the project was tendered last month. The total project budget is listed at $6.731 million, which includes the architect fees that were approved earlier this year. The construction portion of this project was budgeted at $5.873 million, and the tender price came back at $4.065 million. It is important to note that there are additional fees that are associated with this project. As I mentioned, there's the architect fees, which are incorporated. There's also IT considerations, furnishings, landscaping. However, we are expecting the project to be overall under budget. With that said, and indicated in the report to council, administration is recommending the town hall addition project be awarded to the lowest tender price, being Gulf Developments, and that was also reviewed by the town's architect that was hired for this project.
Or comments to the report, and then we'll get a motion. Councillor McGuire Blaze is moving that the report be received and that council award the contract to Gulf Developments for the amount I stated below, needing a seconder. Councillor Verbeek. Now the motion is on the table. Okay, and in the report, we want to make sure that it's referenced for Gulf Developments. Deputy Mayor Shepley.
Wondering if administration has any idea what the timeline would be before we would see a shovel in the ground.
Through you, Mayor Bondi, we don't have that exact timeline at this point. We are pending, I spoke with the architect today. We are looking pending approval tonight to set up a contractor pre-construction meeting, hopefully for the end of this week. And then we can get a lot of those details. But the first step for this was to make sure that we have the PO or the contract issued to the successful proponent.
Anything else from members of council? I think this is a really positive step, not only for our council, but for our administration and for our residents. Having one-stop shopping here right at our location, I think is going to be terrific. We're expanding because we need to expand, but we're consolidating. And part of our business case will be offloading the Guesto building, and we'll have a new modern facility to have a decent, more accessible council chambers. And I'm thrilled to be part of the team that is going to make this happen. And just to members of the public and to council watching, our staff really deserve this as well. There are parts of this building that are hot. There are parts of this building that are cold. On any day I'll walk through and somebody will have a fan and another person will have a jacket. And, you know, the building elevations up and down on the floors is not ideal for our residents from a customer service point of view, accessibility point of view. So it's well deserving. And I think the morale in our town will better, you know, we have a 2-person lunchroom right now. People have to eat outside in their cars and on their desks. So I'm really thrilled to see this happen. All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. I guess we can go after the meeting, we'll get our shovels out and do the groundbreaking. Colchester Heights draft plan of subdivision, needing a mover and a seconder that the development services report be received. And that in addition to the conditions set forth at the September 23rd, 2024 special council meeting, that we add a condition that a fence in accordance with the town's fence bylaw be installed along the rear property lines 44 to lots 40 to 11 abutting Ambassador Beach Road, and the rear property lines lots 20 to 35 abutting Santa Ana Avenue where the fences do not exist, and the side yard property line of lot 1 abutting Santa Ana Avenue where a fence does not exist. Director Chadwick?
Again, Madam Mayor. At the special meeting on September 23rd, members of council were provided with some information regarding a proposed plan of subdivision for lands generally referred to as Colchester Heights in Ward 3. That report and presentation are attached to council's agenda tonight for quick reference. So although council provided a resolution of support for the subdivision with various recommended conditions, council requested the developer consider the installation of a fence along the boundaries of the subdivision where feasible. So we met with administration internally as well as members of the Essex Region Conservation Authority, as well as the developer and their consultant to discuss this. Neither the town nor IRCA had any issue with the installation of the fence along the eastern and western property lines of the subdivision. The installation of a fence, however, along the southern boundary of the subdivision would not be supported by either the town nor IRCA due to the topography of the drain and to ensure open and unencumbered access to the drainage maintenance corridor. So as a part of the resolution before you tonight, we're recommending that council resolve to impose another condition as Mayor Bondi read earlier. As well, in addition to what council had asked of the developer at the September 23rd meeting, council also requested that the developer consider hosting an information session with area residents, although this does not need to be direction or cannot be direction, unfortunately, from the developer because it's not a requirement under the Planning Act. The developer is amenable to hosting an information meeting by invitation to residents directly abutting the proposed subdivision. The developer did not provide a time frame of when this meeting would be held, but did indicate that experts retained by the developer would be present to provide details of the various studies and reports completed as a part of the subdivision application in an effort to respond to further questions from the public, if any. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Chadwick. I just want it to be noted on public record that the night that I believe it was my idea to request the developer to have an information meeting. At no point did I ever think that it would be by invitation, because development in Colchester impacts more than just the abutting landowners. And I am meeting with the developer this week to touch base on files, and I'm going to let them know, just on behalf of myself, that by invitation is very disappointing. And that's my comment right now. Deputy Mayor Shepley?
you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick question on the fence, the southerly fence. Was it rejected based on the fact that it would be a wood fence? Was there any consideration to another type of fence that would be more free flowing, or was that considered at all? Just curious.
For you, Madam Mayor. The stipulation essentially was a fence, in accordance to whatever the fence bylaw stipulates. A fence, whether it was wood or chain link, would not be supported on the southern property line due to the topography. The drain has a topography that would not essentially support. That is almost a natural barrier for residents not to cross and potentially, say, go onto private property or trespass onto private property. So that is a natural barrier, A. And then B, the IRCA and the municipality indicated that the drain needed to be unencumbered with no restrictions whatsoever. Thank you.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. First of all, thank you for stating the obvious that by invitation only shouldn't be considered. And I'm happy that you're going to speak to the developer, and please ask for a couple weeks notice that the ward reps are included on this, and mayor and deputy mayor, and that at a minimum it should be the beaches abutting, and because it should be known that in Colchester the beaches take care of each other, and that at the very least you're going to want that, but the entire area of Colchester should be included. My question to Director Chadwick would be the actual location of those fences. I just want a little clarity on here. I see that there's the easement that runs down. That fence can't be placed on top of the easement, right? So would the fence be on the Santa Ana property line, or would it come back inside the developer's property line?
Mayor to Councillor Mady, great question. It's proposed that in order for the property owners to maintain their properties, the fence be installed along the property lines, not along the easement line. In other words, the easement line is supposed to be invisible. It stipulates essentially that it's to be a maintenance corridor, that there's no structures to be built along the easement, but property owners must still maintain that area. So theoretically, if the fence is placed, we'll say, in front of the easement, if that makes sense, it would then prevent residents from maintaining those lands, even though those lands are owned by the residents. So if that helps, the fence is to be installed along the property lines.
Thank you. Sorry, no, it helped. So now okay, it's going to be on the Santa Ana side then. Are the property owners at the very beginning of the subdivision and very end able to block that off then, or like, how does that corridor stay open is going to be my question. If the fence is on this side and these properties go up to it, then they're all going to be blocking off access all the way down that fence then, right? You understand what I'm?
Mayor Bondi, I'm just wondering if we need to put up a map to help delineate.
through you, Chair. If we take the thicker dotted line at the Santa Ana side as being the fence, all the property lines that run to the fence then would cross over the easement. Is that how it's going to be?
Mayor Bondi, that's correct. So the easement is an area of land that is owned by or would be owned by the owners of the properties. However, would be an easement for maintenance of the drain where the municipality would require unencumbered access to, should they need to access those lands. But essentially, the town would not own those lands.
Thank you. I understand that. But what I'm asking is that if we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 connecting fences there, if we have to replace that drain, we're going to have to knock down all those fences then to bring in the equipment to dig those drains up and replace it then.
So typically in these easement agreements, it would actually specify what you can and cannot put in that easement, and it would include a fence. So they would not be permitted to place a fence within the easement, or a shed, or a building, or anything that would impede access from the municipality.
McGuire, please.
Thank you through the chair. I may be wrong, so pardon my ignorance if I am. I thought that this particular drain was an open drain and we were digging it deeper. Is this an open drain or is it going to be closed with just drain grates?
Through the chair. So the drain that runs, which would be left and right on the image that you're looking at, is a closed drain. The drain that runs, let's say, up and down, north to south, so the Langlois Arner, is an open drain.
Through the chair. So that open drain, we cannot put a fence up. What can a resident do to prevent like children from going into the drain, to the open drain, if we can't put any fencing up?
Madam Mayor, through you to Councilor McGuire Blaze, I would recommend signage, no trespassing signage. However, if a property owner abutting the rear of we'll call it the drain easement already has a fence or chooses to install a fence, that could be something. However, the IRCA and the town have stipulated that the topography of the drain is sufficient in that it would prevent trespassing onto those properties in and of itself, and in order to maintain that access. So it's not recommended. I don't know if Director Gerard would like to add anything to that.
So there would be nothing that would prevent anybody from accessing the drain. What Director Chadwick is alluding to is that there's an actual slope that will go from the back of those lots down into the drain that has to be maintained by those residents. There's also a concern that if they place a fence along the back of the properties, that those will go unmaintained, and then we'll receive a lot of bylaw concerns related to grass cutting and things like that as well. The comment about from IRCA relating to it being a natural barrier is because of that slope.
So these properties, 12 through 19, they cannot put a fence up in their backyard going parallel to the drain. They wouldn't be able to completely fence in their yards. They wouldn't be able to put in a pool then. They wouldn't be able to contain their yard for their dog or child. No fencing is allowed.
I don't know the answer to that.
Councilor McGuire Blaze, our review was to stipulate as a part of the development agreement down the road, or a condition of draft plan approval, that a fence would be considered. It's not to say that it would be prohibited. However, the developer is not required to install a fence. In this case, we were looking at the fence for privacy reasons as a separation with adjacent properties. And so when we met with the developer and the consultant, as well as with IRCA, of course, and internal parties, it was discussed that a fence could be stipulated as a draft condition of approval to assist with separation of land use, we'll call it, or privacy for residents along Ambassador Beach as well as Santa Ana. But to serve the condition, it's not something that we would recommend for the subdivision draft conditions, but is not something that would be prohibited whatsoever. If a property owner chose to, certainly they would be permitted to.
Council, we have the motion on the table that the Colchester Heights draft plan of subdivision report be received. And I think I read already once that a fence be installed along the rear property lines and the other stuff that I read. Meeting moved by Councillor McGuire Blaze, supported by Councillor Hammond. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Councillor Mady.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. I'd like to make a motion that we direct staff to write a letter to the developer for his open house that he's so graciously putting on for us, but that we ask for those conditions that the mayor, deputy mayor, ward reps be notified, and that we open it up to the beaches at least in Colchester. Please.
Thank you, Councillor Mady. I think it's a good idea to get it on public record, supported by Councillor Allard. Comments to the motion? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Economic Development 2024-09 Building Report and Development Overview. Looking for a mover and a seconder that the report be received for information. Moved by Deputy Mayor Shepley, supported by Councillor Mady. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Harrow Streetscape Funding Request will go to Director Gerard, and then we'll get a motion on the table.
Thank you. Through you, administration is requesting additional funding for the Harrow Streetscape project to complete a pedestrian crossing at the intersection of King and Erie, and to shift a light standard that we feel is too close to the crosswalk at the intersection of King and Queen for safety reasons. It should be noted that for this poll, that the town did hold the engineer accountable for the design error, and since the project is under the care and control of the town, under contractual agreement with a contractor, we agreed that services provided in lieu of payment for the error. We received services provided in lieu of payment for the error. However, this would still require the town to make payment to the contractor for the relocation. Overall, the Harrow Streetscape project was completed under budget by approximately $115,000, including net refundable HST. But due to some unexpected funding shortfalls from mainly from the County of Essex, the remaining budget for this project stands at just over $3,000, with an additional $49,369.68 required to complete these last two items. The funding for these two items is requested from the Towns Canada Community Benefit Reserve and will not directly affect taxation.
Looking for a mover and a seconder that the Capital Works and Asset Management report be received and that council approve the additional funding of $49,000, including non-refundable HST above the approved 2020 capital budget of $4,664,479.36 for two change orders for the Harrow Streetscape project. Needing a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Hammond, supported by Councillor Mady. Any questions? All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Operations, streetlight banner policy, needing a mover and a seconder that the operations report be received and that council adopt the infrastructure services report titled streetlight banner policy will go to Director Gerard.
Thank you through you. So on October 7th, council provided direction to administration on the proposed streetlight banner policy. Since then, we have revised the policy to the proposed presented here tonight. The main changes include only allowing the installation of banners for the town, the Essex Center BIA, the Harrow Chamber, and local legions for the purpose of Veteran Memorial Banner Program. the reduction of banner changes to a maximum of 4 times per year, and waiving the cost of veteran memorial banner programs completed by the local. In addition to these changes, and now the specific nature of the banner approvals, the need for council approval of the banner designs was removed from the policy. This will help to avoid administrative effort for programs that are already approved by council through the adoption of the policy. In terms of financial impacts, the town will include the cost to complete the annual banner installations for the local legions of the 2025 operating.
Thank you. I need a mover and a seconder for that. That's a really good move by Councillor McGuire Blaze, supported by Councillor Verbeek. Comments from council? We like it, I think. All in favor? That is passed unanimously. If you are a Legion member, maybe you can follow up with our Legions, let them know. Moving on to mailbox damage policy. Needing a mover and a seconder that the council approve the infrastructure services policy titled mailbox damage policy. Director Gerard.
Again, this mailbox damage policy is being proposed to improve customer service to residents whose mailboxes are damaged as a control operation. Historically, the town has replaced mailboxes that have been physically struck by winter control equipment. However, the practice has been to only provide a rural mailbox and post in accordance with Canada Post guidelines. Operations has received many complaints over the years with this practice since some residents elect to have decorative or custom mailboxes. So administration is proposing in the policy to provide the cash equivalent of a rural mailbox of $75 for residents to choose which option they prefer.
A seconder for the policy, moved by Councillor Allard, supported by Councillor Verbeek. Any questions on the policy? Seeing none, all in favor, and that is carried. Drainage, appointment of an engineer under section 78 for improvements to the west town line drain. Needing a mover and a seconder that the drainage report be received, and that's Spreet Associates London Limited be appointed to prepare a report under the Drainage Act through section 78 for improvements to the west town line drain. We're seeing a lot of different engineers. It's good to see. Needing a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Mady, supported by Councillor Allard. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor, and that is carried. Legal and Legislative Services, the 14th Concession East Drain and Branch. That the following 3 members of the Drainage Board, Janice, Daniel, Percy, be appointed to sit as members of the Court of Revision convened for the 14th Concession East Drain, and that the Court of Revision scheduled for 5 o'clock on December 5th, and that bylaw 2396 be read a first, second, and provisionally adopted on November 4th. Needing a mover and a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Shepley, supported by Councillor Hammond. Any questions? All in favor? And that is carried. Legal and Legislative Services, Walker Drain Repairs and Improvements, that the following 3 members of the Drainage Board, Janice, Daniel, and Percy, be appointed to sit as the members of the Court of Revision convened for the Walker Drain Repairs Improvements, in such the Court of Revision to be scheduled for 5 o'clock on December 5th, and that bylaw 2397 be read a first, second, and third time provisionally adopted on November 4th. Deputy Mayor Shepley moves. Councillor Hammond seconds. All in favor, and that is carried. Community Services Special Events Notice, Santa's Village and Essex Center BIA Santa Parade, that the Community Services report be received and that council approve the granting of a temporary noise exemption under bylaw 2038 from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. on December 14th, 2024 to accommodate the entertainment for the Santa's Village and the BIA Santa Claus Parade, and that council approve the closing of Talbot Street North from Center Street to Cameron Avenue between 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. for Santa's Village, and that council approve closing Fairview Avenue West from Hanlon Street to St. James Street between 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. as a staging area for the parade, and that council approve closing Fairview Avenue West from Hanlon Street to Talbot Street South, Talbot Street North, south between Gosfield Town Line and County Road 8, Medora Street between Talbot Street North, County Road 8, and finally County Road 8 between Talbot Street North and Medora Street between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. for the Essex Center Santa Claus BIA Parade. Needing a mover and a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Shepley, Councillor Allard. Any questions, comments? Coming up soon. Save the date in your calendar. Counselor McGuire Blaze, do you still need volunteers or how are you doing there?
Through the chair, we would welcome all of the volunteers. The more volunteers, the better. But anybody we will take families. So if family wants to volunteer, we'll find a suitable place for a family to volunteer. So they don't have to be high school age kids. If a family would like to do something for the holiday and give back to the community, we would love to have you. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Community Services Special Events Notice. Gregor Stroll by Santa, December 6, 2024. That the Community Services Report be received and that council approve closing Stewart between 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. for the Stroll by Santa event, moved by Councillor Verbeek, supported by Councillor McGuire Blaze. Councillor Verbeek, how are you doing for volunteers? Do you have enough?
More, and appreciate it.
Thank you. 2 awesome events coming up in our town. If you need to, or if you're able to volunteer, reach out to our counselors. All in favor? And that is carried. Community Services Jingle Bell Run, Walk and Wheel. That the Community Service Report be received and that council approve closing Talbot Street North, South from 390 Talbot Street North to Fairview Avenue on November 10th, 2024 between 9:30 a.m. and 12 o'clock p.m. for the Jingle Bell Run, Walk and Wheel. Cole, are you doing it? No? See you there. Okay. Needing a mover and a seconder for this? Moved by Councillor McGuire Blaze, supported by Councillor Guerin. Any questions? All in favor? Thanks for volunteering, Cole. Information Technology, Regional Information Technology IT Mutual Aid Agreement. We have our Manager of IT Services, Mr. Jack Barron, here to explain this to us.
Through the chair, good evening, council. In front of you is a bylaw permitting the town of Essex to enter into a mutual aid agreement. The past several years, municipalities have become a major target for cyber attacks. We have seen an increase of ransom attacks to municipalities all across Canada. We have become a target due to the amount of sensitive information retained on the networks. The result of these attacks result in an extended disruption of municipal services to the residents. These cyber attacks also cause disruption on how the municipality conducts its day-to-day business. In the event of a cyber attack, the primary objective for the IT department is to minimize data loss and to restore services. Restoring IT services can be an overwhelming task for any IT department. Some of the smaller municipalities, such as ours, with a small IT staff, may not have the resource or the expertise on site to address such a large-scale security breach. Having this IT municipal aid agreement gives us the ability to tap into resources and expertise from other municipalities. These resources could assist in the prompt recovery of the network. The mutual aid agreement is a formal structure that outlines the policy to allow collaboration between municipalities, and some of the key benefits in becoming a member of this group is rapid response to crisis, resource sharing, training, improved cybersecurity, and collaboration. Working in this partnership, we can foster stronger relationships between the municipalities in our area. We know that in a time of crisis, or if there's a need for support and assistance, that we have the ability to reach out to our neighbors and get the support we need. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Shepley.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to move this when the time is appropriate. And, you know, I think it's a great idea. Should have been done a long time ago, actually. It's the right thing to do. It's a neighborly thing to do. It's the Canadian thing to do. And this is a good one.
Mayor Shepley, seconded by Councillor McGuire Blaze. Any further comments? All in favor? It's carried unanimously. CAO Suite.
Bondi. And just to add to this, to go with Deputy Mayor, yes, it's a great first step. And at a regional CAO meeting, this is kind of the quick win. We're also looking at other things, especially small municipalities like our vehicles, our large equipment, to kind of look at in the future, getting these similar mutual aid agreements. So I think this will be the start of many going to come in the next few years.
Finance and Business Services Director Drusevich.
Thank you, through the chair. In front of you tonight is an information-only report on the main impacts that we are currently experiencing while we work towards a finalized draft of the 2025 budget. Administration is still working through balancing and finalizing the budget. Currently, the budget is scheduled to be released publicly on November 22nd. The total estimated tax rate impact will be in that document then. Some of these impacts are considered fixed because they are part of a contractual commitment, and some are considered variable or controllable. Within the report, you will see that the most significant and largest impact to our expenses is the increase in OPP contracted services. The annual increase to this contract, which has been finalized, is $615,984, so over $600,000 in 1 year. This equates to a 3.3% tax rate impact alone. Most municipalities with OPP services have noted similar increases, and currently AMO is aware of this and has pledged to continue to work with municipalities and the province. And they've also said that they would share information as it becomes available. So they are in talks right now with the OPP. Other fixed increases include employment contract increases, as well as annual CPI increases. Variable expense increases include monies that have been directed towards the asset management reserve, as recommended in our asset management plan, and new positions that have been recommended in the recently adopted organizational review. At this point, no action is required from council, but should you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, or I'd be prepared with a response when we go to budget walkthrough, which is scheduled on Monday, November 25th.
Mayor, just a quick question on the OPP contract. That 615,000, does that reflect, because I know that there was some back pay in their contract deal they had, does that reflect that back payment too and the current year? And what type of increase are we looking at for the next year? Will it be substantial, like lower than the 3.3% for 2026?
Through the chair, it does not include the, what Deputy Mayor Shepley is referring to is there was a 2023 true up for contract negotiations. That's not included in here. We've temporarily funded that through stabilization reserves because it was considered a retroactive true up. The ongoing expense that we're aware of at this point, the ongoing increase to the expense is the $615,984. We have not been made aware of what 2026 could look like at this point. That has not been released publicly. Given what the OPP settled on, we could be expecting a similar increase.
Thank you through the chair. 2 questions. The first, just to go look at the OPP again. Is this a contract renewal? Like it says contract renewal. Is it like up for renewal? Is this an opportunity for us to look elsewhere other than OPP?
This was their staffing resources renewal. So for us, I believe it's 2026, 27 is our contract. If that's something, because it's a relatively large process that council would like us to direct, we could have further discussion on what those steps would look like. So council has a better idea what process to even look at another option for policing services.
Just that maybe it's worded in misleading because this is OPP contract renewal. So we're not actually renewing the contract. The contract is in place until 26, 27.
My belief, yes. Yeah.
So further to that, we can't negotiate this and we can't find an alternative source for policing. Just so the public is aware, like we're stuck with this 3.3% increase. There's not much we can do about that. So of all of the increases that we have here, you have an 8.8% increase before we do anything else.
Chair, that is correct. However, note there is a line in there that says budget adjustments to be determined. We're still working through it. We're still trying to make cuts where we can. I'm still trying to stabilize the budget where I can. So those one-time expenses. So we're hoping to come in lower than that at this point.
Just to add to Director Zusevich, you're correct. That numbers kind of look to fixed costs. We know that's not reasonable. It's not practical. So as Director Drusevich work with the directors, we're looking at areas that we can provide council with some options, how to get that number down and have different funding models. So although this is kind of give you an idea where some fixed costs are, you'll see once we get to the budget walkthrough, some of the things and recommendations we may have to get that down to much more fiscally responsible.
Sorry, Counselor Maybe.
To you, Chair. I really like that idea of maybe this is a time where we could start a conversation on looking for other services. I'm just wondering that with our next council of the whole coming up pretty soon, would you be able to give us some information at that time and we could have a discussion on it then?
I think Counselor McGuire Blaze asked that that be on our next roundtable. So I think one of the first things we're going to want to look at is the current up-to-date cost in the area for everybody's contracts. Because I have it on my phone from before, and I think Amherstburg was paired with Windsor Police is 2 million more. You know, I'm not opposed to looking at it. I just don't know how feasible it would be. Maybe we start the discussion on a regional police force. Okay. Anything else on the budget outlook? Certainly, it's grim, and none of us want to raise taxes. Nobody comes here in these seats to say we're going to raise taxes. We have a lot to balance. Looking for a mover and a seconder that we receive the budget outlook memo. Moved by the Deputy Mayor Shepley and supported by Counselor Mady. Any questions? All in favor? That's carried. All right, report from our youth member tonight. We have youth member Cole Foster in attendance with us.
Yeah, I'd just like to remind everyone to go get your poppies, wear them with pride, and support our veterans. Thank you.
Thank you, and don't skedaddle out of here too fast after we're going to take a picture with our new youth member. County Council update, Deputy Mayor Shepley.
Through you, Madam Mayor, nothing to report tonight as our meetings have now adjusted to where they should be.
Okay, thank you. I do have on the county agenda this week, stay tuned. We have, I have a notice of motion asking the county to do a distribution email address so that if residents want to reach out to county councilors, they just have to push one email address rather than 14 people. Okay, motion to receive the county regular minutes. Counselor McGuire Blaze, Counselor Guerin, all in favor. That's carried. Correspondence. Correspondence to be received, that the correspondence listed in agenda item 13.1 be received, and if we want to pull some out later after, we can. Moved by Counselor McGuire Blaze, supported by Counselor Guerin, all in favor. That's carried. Any member of council wish to discuss these? I think we probably have. All right, committee meeting minutes. Needing a mover and a seconder that the committee meeting minutes be received, approved, and adopted as circulated. We have the Court of Revision from October 10th and the Drainage Board meeting from October 15th. Moved by Deputy Mayor Shepley, supported by Counselor Hammond. Questions? All in favor? That is carried. Notices of motion, Director Malanjuklo.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. Through you. The following notice of motion was presented at the October 21, 2024 regular council meeting and is being brought forward this evening for council's consideration. Moved by Councilor Verbeek that council direct administration to work with Isler Lodge to have a concrete pad installed at the Isler Lodge on which a bench can be installed by the lodge with up to $2,000 in cost for the concrete pad to be paid out of the 2024 council contingency fund.
Verbeek looking for a seconder. Counselor Allard. Counselor Verbeek, did you wish to speak to this motion?
Briefly, Madam Mayor, just to clarify for other councilors before they have to decide to support or not. The reason I'm asking to use this money from the contingency fund now is because the residents at Isler Lodge, they raise the funds themselves to put the bench up that is there right now facing Isler Ave. On weekends, at times when the residents are getting a lot of company, like at Easter or Christmas, Valentine's, they'll put together a little raffle basket. They'll run a raffle and they'll make, $200 or $300 season on their raffle baskets, and then they'll get their little basket of money and they'll decide how to spend it. In 2018, they decided to put this bench in to the one side of the entrance. So they paid for the bench town supported by putting in the concrete pad for it. And I can tell you from someone that's there probably at least 5 times a week, that bench is always used by residents that have company, by people in the community walking by on the road. Now they have again raised the funds and just spent $1,700 to buy the bench and the plaque. And what they're asking is that town put the concrete in again. And yes, we can look at this in the next budget and it can be, we can aim to do it in the spring. But what I wanted to say is that the bench in 2018, the small group of residents that raised the funds and made that happen aren't even here to speak to this. The residents that have raised the funds to see this bench, that have purchased the bench, I would really like us to put it in sooner rather than later. Director Jarusevich has assured us that the money is in the contingency fund to cover the cost, and Director Morissette says it'll cost between $1,500 and $2,000. That's why I'm asking council to support using the contingency funds for this.
Thank you, Councillor Verbeek. Any other questions or comments from members of council? Councillor Mady.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. That's great. I love hearing when residents raise money themselves before asking council for money, and to see them do it twice, it's amazing. I could support this. Yeah, thanks for bringing it forward.
Also be supporting it, and if it's supported, Councillor Verbeek, can you let all of the existing residents know that even though they might not see the pad right now, like we're working on it, and let them know as soon as possible if we do support it. All in favor? Okay. All in. Okay. Well, do you want a recorded vote then? No. All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Director Malandroukolo.
Through you, the following notice of motion is for presentment only and will be brought forward for council's consideration at the November 18, 2024 regular council meeting. Moved by Mayor Bondi that Town of Essex Council instruct administration to implement a hiring freeze for any newly created full-time and part-time positions at the town effective immediately.
Thank you, Director Malandroukolo. We have reports and announcements from council members. I forget where I started last time, so I don't know. Councilor McGuire-Blaise.
Thank you through the chair. I just want to again remind people that Santa's Village is coming up and we are looking for volunteers. If you are a family or a group who would like to volunteer together, we reach out and we would love to put you guys to get everyone working. It's a great way for a family to show the holiday spirit and give back to the community. Even if it's just for an hour, we would love to have you. So if you're one of those people and you're one of those families, please reach out and we will find you a great opportunity to help volunteer. Thanks.
That on the 11th, everybody come out to the cenotaphs and the ceremonies that we have, and see you there.
All right, well, this Thursday, I'll be hosting a meet and mingle at the McGregor Community Center that's in the library building. And there's at least 10 plus groups that are going to be there, you know, sharing what services they provide in the community. There'll be refreshments as well. It's 6 to 8, so join us if you can.
Nothing to report, just I'll be away on Remembrance Day, and even though I won't be there physically, I'll be there with you all in honoring our veterans.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Just a reminder for the live theater in Colchester, Scrooge, A Christmas Carol. There's 4 dates, Friday the 13th, Saturday the 14th, Saturday the 14th afternoon, and Sunday in the afternoon, December 15th. You can get tickets at events@heritagecolchester.com. Other than that, I'd love to see everybody out at the Cenotaphs on Remembrance Day, 10:30 at your Legion for the parade. Thank you. December 13th to the 15th.
A little early, but I just got notice this weekend that the Kingsman Santa Claus Parade will be on the 21st, so everybody that's polishing up their floats, get them ready, and we'll see you then. Also see you on Remembrance Day, I hope.
St. Paul's Anglican Church is seeking donations of men's clothes for their clothing cupboard. So if anybody has bags of clothes hanging out in their trunk of their car that they're driving around with, get in touch with St. Paul's Church and drop them off. I just want to thank Haida's House and all of the volunteers that came out for the walk in memory of the Carly Standen Walsh and her children family this weekend. Last I talked to them, we raised $17,000, so that was good. That was really great. Thank you. The goal was 10, so we almost doubled the goal, and there could still be a little bit more money after I left. They could have even collected more. I also do want to give a shout out to the Vampire Zombies and Outer Space movie that was partly filmed here in Essex at the United Church with some of our local characters. The former mayor, Ron McDermott, was in it, and it was pretty cool. And it was only 2 days at WIF, but hopefully it comes out streamed at some point. It is more of an adult movie. Probably not that appropriate for children, but it was great. And if you want to see clips of our United Church, you can see that. Okay, bylaws. Bylaw 2371 being a bylaw to provide the Adams Sweet Drain be read a third, finally passed on November 4th, needing a mover and a second. Moved by the Deputy Mayor and supported by Councillor Hammond. All in favor? That's carried. Bylaw 2372 being a bylaw to provide for the East Town Line Drain. That bylaw 2372 be read a third and finally passed on November 4th, needing a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Verbeek and supported by Councillor Allard. Any questions? All in favor, and that is carried. Bylaw 2390 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the October 21st regular council meeting. Bylaw 2390 be read a third, finally passed November 4th. Moved by Councillor Mady, supported by Councillor Hammond. Any questions? All in favor? That's carried. Bylaws requiring a first, second, third, final reading. Bylaw 2398, 2024 Pathway to Potential Service Contract, being a bylaw to execute the agreement between the Town of Essex and the City of Windsor. This is for money for our Parks and Rec subsidies. Be read a first, second, and third, finally passed on November 4th. Moved by Councillor Verbeek, supported by Deputy Mayor Shepley. All in favor? That's carried. Bylaw 2394 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of November 4th. Regular council meeting be read a first and second time, finally passed on November 4th. Moved by Councillor Hammond, supported by Councillor Guerin. All in favor? That's carried. And a bylaw to motion to adjourn. Moved by Deputy Mayor, supported by Councillor McGuire Blaze. All in favor? That's carried. Next meeting is Wednesday, November 13th, our 5-year capital plan presentation. Thank you for joining us this evening.